everybody, my name's Erica and welcome to my channel, Ginger Books, or welcome back if you're a continuing watcher or subscriber. I'm here to bring you a more in-depth review of A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J. Maas. So obviously, if you can see, I failed at trying to keep myself from not rereading the A Court of Thorns and Roses series, but right now in the way I've been kind of feeling, I decided just, you know what, why not? Because A Court of Silver Flames, literally just ever since reading that book, I've needed to reread this whole entire series. So I decided for a fun little thing is to do a more in-depth review, since they are getting quite popular now because of Court of Silver Flames, in my thoughts and opinions. So this is spoiler filled, so I do recommend clicking off this video, read A Court of Thorns and Roses, and then come back to this video and see if we kind of have the similar likes or dislikes, and have a conversation about it. First thing I want to start off, and I don't even have the book with me. Wow, I'm so prepared, guys. Hold on. So, A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J. Maas follows your main character, Feyre, who used to live a privileged life, but then was taken out from under her and now lives in poverty in a small village just south of the wall that goes into Pyrthian. Now, I do apologize if I do mispronounce them, and I may flip back to the guide that helps you pronounce the names in the back. So I do apologize for that. So just to make sure I am pronouncing these right, I'm going to flip back to that handy dandy Pyrthian, which the Pyrthian Lands are the Feyre lands, where the court, which showing the map at the front of the book, is divided into different kingdoms. And this is where Feyre's village is, if you can kind of see it. So you have the Night Court, Day Court, Dawn Court, you have Under the Mountain, which is kind of like in the middle. I'm sorry if you can't see it. Winter Court, the Autumn, Summer Court, and Spring Court. And then you obviously have the Fairy Realms that are over here as well, and more of the Mortal Lands. And then you have that little island, which is Hybern. Feyre, you start off with the book with Feyre, who is on a hunt for her family. Pretty much she has become kind of like the sole caretaker of the family, because her father has kind of fallen into a depression, and especially after the debt collectors came and hurt his leg. So that's where you kind of start off as her, and she comes across this wolf who she's trying to debate on if this wolf is a fairy or not. And she ends up shooting him, which pretty much starts the whole chain reaction for the book, where she pretty much kills a fairy wolf by the name of Andres, and Tamlin comes to collect the debt. He made up this debt, that a life for a life pretty much thing, and says that instead of, me killing you on the spot, I'm going to whisk you away to who he is, the High Lord of the Spring Court, so to his court. And that's where her adventure starts, in the Fairy Realms, on the north side of the wall. With that little synopsis, and I do apologize if I did not do the synopsis great, I am learning. Let's get into what I liked about the book. So I have 5 things that I kind of really liked about the book, and one of them was I was getting very serious, Beauty and the Beast vibes from this book. I really liked it. It was a nice kind of twist to the Beauty and the Beast kind of story, because, I mean, just even from, the first encounter, where she somehow, takes something from the Spring Court or from the Fairy Lands, so she has to pay for a life debt, pretty much. So in walks Tamlin, the Beast, and takes her away to live forever in his Spring Court, in the Fairy Lands. And then, of course, the whole story of how the Beauty fell in love with the Beast. So Feyre falling in love with Tamlin, who transforms into a beast-type form. And then, of course, the whole thing centering around the curse of the reason why Tamlin's whole court has to wear masks, and what is going on under the mountain with, and I'm going to butcher this name even though I have tried to pronounce it with the back in the pronunciations, and I believe it's Amarantha, or Amarantha, with her kind of general story of how she's connected to the king of Hybern, being his leading commander, and how she took over the Fairy Realms 49 years ago, so almost 50 years ago. and how she's been ruling with an iron fist, and pretty much gave Tamlin an ultimatum of either you join my side because she has the hots for him, or I'll give you a chance at finding somebody who can break the curse, but you cannot talk about the curse. Even though that's a little bit different from the rendition of Beauty and the Beast. It's almost kind of gives you almost Howl's Moving Castle vibes where you can't talk about the curse. So it's almost kind of like a weird weaving in and out of like how a little bit of the curse of Howl's Moving Castle, I feel like, in Beauty and the Beast. Of course, nobody can tell her this, but she finds out after the fact about the reason why, Tamlin made up this story, and the reason why his friend sacrificed himself was to get her here to fall in love with Tamlin, to say, I love you, so that the curse would be broken, at least for the people can take off the masks. And then, I don't know if his power would have been restored. I think it would have been. And then, of course, the whole Naga encounter of Tamlin coming in to save Feyre gave me huge, Beauty and the Beast vibes with the Beast coming in to save Belle from wolves. So, huge Beauty and the Beast vibes throughout the whole entire book. Number 2. Of course, I would have this as one of my top, and that would be Rhysand and Feyre's meeting at, I believe it's called Camelot? Let me double check. Colin May. Sorry. Colin May, which is a ritual that's kind of goes between the courts that they do, and called and then the Great Rite that Tamlin had to proceed in. Well, Feyre was told to stay in her room. However, the call of the drums and the celebration drew her to Colin May, and that's where she meets of the High Lord of the Night Court, Rhysand. However, she doesn't know his name until later on. But the whole encounter of her pretty much almost about ready to be, well, and I do apologize, this might be triggering, gang raped by a bunch of not high fae but fairies. Howl just Rhysand just swoops in and is just like, oh, I've been looking for you. It just gave me huge Howl and Sophie vibes right there of how he kind of sauntered in and saved her. And that just leads me to Rhysand as a whole character. I totally forgot how he was in A Court of Thorns and Roses, even though it was a total mask. And it has a lot of foreshadowing with the next 2 books, since I have read these books, of how, you see this, what she thought was this, very arrogant and very kind of standoffish type person, and slowly starts kind of building down those walls, and exactly why he was that kind of way is very interesting, and it makes his character a little bit more complex. Number 3 that I really liked about this book was all of the metaphors to the night and the stars throughout the whole entire book. Feyre comparing the pool of water that Tamlin and Lucien both take her to as a picnic, as the starry night sky. Just comparing anything to night and the stars. It's just a huge foreshadowing moment, which leads me to number 4, my favorite thing, foreshadowing of what is to come. Because it's just, reading this whole series already once, just so much foreshadowing of just the way, how she's always attracted to the night sky and the stars, and using those metaphors to compare them to beautiful things, and it's just my heart. Just so much foreshadowing of what is to come in the 2nd book and the 3rd book. And again, that leads me to number 4, which is foreshadowing of what is to come. There is a lot of foreshadowing for where she's most likely going to end up, the reaction, her interactions at the end of the book with Rhysand while they're under the mountain trapped and she's going through the trials, and also a little bit of Tamlin's kind of controlling and overprotective side. You see that also. Now, granted, I do kind of give him the benefit of the doubt. He has been through some traumatic experiences in the last 50 years, and also with his own father, the old High Lord of the Spring Court. So I completely understand where he's coming from, but and also some of the PTSD that Feyre is going to kind of go through at the beginning of the 2nd book. And actually, to be honest, throughout the 2nd book. And it's beautifully done, but it's just kind of sitting here thinking of, how did I not see the signs the first time I read it? So, yeah. And then number 5, which is kind of a dislike, but not really, because I think if I feel the way that Sarah J. Maas did this, I think it's very smart because it sets up for the next 2 books and it doesn't get you feeling so attached to the love interest in the first book. And that is the huge disconnect throughout the whole entire book. It just felt that the love interests and the way she described their interactions, because I mean, Sarah J. Maas can write a very good smutty and dirty scene. And it shows in the second and third book of A Court of Thorns and Roses series. But in A Court of Thorns and Roses, it just felt so disconnected. And that the love was more out of like primal hunger, I like to call it, than actual like love. And you can she kind of starts hinting at that throughout this whole book, that Feyre is reaching for him because he's finally giving her a life that she's always wanted, but it doesn't feel out of like actual love. And I don't think Feyre realizes that kind of yet. And it's just a huge disconnect of, wanting these love interests to love each other and fight through these, next 3 books. But, and it might just be because I'm rereading it for the second time, but I just don't feel that connection like I do with the 2, A Court of Mist and Fury and A Court of Wings and Ruin. It's really hard to explain. Now for the last part, and this is definitely going to be so spoiler filled, is my favorite scenes in the book. My first favorite scene in the book would have to be, all-time favorite scene I should say, would have to be Rhysand and Feyre's first encounter, and just how, and obviously the reason why it's my top 2 that I even mentioned about the book, is just their instant kind of connection, because Feyre really, the way she described it, because it was like the end of a chapter, is that she just looks up at the most beautiful man she's ever saw. I mean, come on. You instantly felt a pull and an attraction to him, I think even faster than you did Tamlin. Come on. Like, you kind of drooled over Tamlin, but there was a lot more, like, disconnect and hate there than it was to Rhysand. And just the huge Major Howl and Sophie vibes at the beginning of that, it was just chef's kiss. My second favorite scene would have to be, and it kind of spans over chapters, is Rhysand and Feyre's connection, obviously, while under the mountain. How Rhysand is, like, literally keeping Feyre from shattering. Because the first, and I guess this leads me into the trials, because after the second trial, it started to wear on Feyre and break her, because for somehow Amarantha found out that she was illiterate. Don't know how, or if she was trying to maybe test a theory of somebody might have made an offhand comment that maybe she was illiterate. And that whole second trial just literally destroyed her psyche almost. And the way Rhysand had been trying to keep her upbeat and sent her music to help keep her together. And it's like, and again, it's at the ending of the chapter where she kind of starts to admit that Rhysand is like the only thing that's really trying to keep her mentally there, to keep persevering and pushing through. And then, of course, it also leads to, their bargain in between the first and second trial. I mean, Feyre was practically dying. And he comes in, I mean, kind of being a prick and an arrogant butt, but pretty much giving her, a deal. Hey, I will save your life if you would, spend, well, at first it was 2 weeks. He could have demanded more, but he allowed her to negotiate and, was treating her like a human being. A little bit more than Tamlin, even in A Court of Thorns and Roses, was giving her. And kind of felt like was treating her a little bit like a child. But he was treating her like a human being and giving her sympathy, under these circumstances. And, saved her and gave her the tattoo with the eye. And that's how he kind of helped her during the second trial. So I guess that leads me to my third ultimate thing I loved about the whole entire book, is the first trial, because I totally forgot how, and excuse my French, badass Feyre was at quick thinking of how to kill the worm type creature that they sent on her, and how she literally kind of just stuck it to Amarantha and was like, you're gonna have to do better than that, you know. You B word. It was so amazing and so beautiful, and it just, I mean, to be honest, these trials and these moments, Sarah J. Maas was still able to captivate me and like keep me enticed. It's just how well she makes her plot and how well she weaves you into the story that I was still on the edge of my seat, and I should have known what was happening. Obviously I forgot, but it still left me on edge and hoping that Feyre would survive. And then my fourth thing that I really loved about the whole book is another character, and that is Lucien. I totally forgot how different his character is compared to A Court of Mist and Fury and A Court of Wings and Ruin. He did not like Feyre at first. It was not a very good friendship at first. And, his witty, sarcastic comebacks and all of that stuff, I totally forgot all about it, and it just makes him one of my favorite side characters in this series as well. Chef's kiss. Well, I really hope you enjoyed my in-depth review of A Court of Thorns and Roses. Comment down what you liked about the video and what you think I could improve on doing in-depth reviews moving forward. I love all of your guys' advice, and it helps me out. But thank you so much for watching. I hope you liked what you saw. If you did, please hit that subscribe button and that bell notification so you are notified. I do post every Sunday nights or Monday mornings and Wednesdays. I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your week, and I will see you in the next video.